Good morning, this is World News here on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. The evacuation of Polish citizens from the Middle East has officially concluded, with the last group arriving safely at Warsaw's Chopin airport. The operation, coordinated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, helped nearly 300 Poles return home over the last few days. The final flight, carrying 68 Polish citizens, including 4 children, landed on Sunday, marking the end of a massive evacuation effort due to escalating tensions in the region. Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski expressed gratitude for the coordination efforts, which brought citizens back from areas affected by the Israeli-Iran conflict. While the journey was long and difficult, with delays at border crossings, evacuated citizens expressed immense relief. Sikorski confirmed that the last phase of the operation is complete, ensuring the safety of Polish citizens and other nationals. And today, the Polish official will be meeting his counterparts in Brussels to discuss the situation in the Middle East. U.S. President Donald Trump questioned the possibility of regime change in Iran following U.S. military strikes on the country. Posting on social media, Trump also said that the attack made, quote, monumental damage to all nuclear sites in Iran.
It's not politically correct to use the term regime change. But if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA. Monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran, as shown by satellite images. Obliteration is an accurate term. The white structure shown is deeply embedded into the rock, with even its roof well below ground level and completely shielded from flame. The biggest damage took place far below ground level. Bullseye.
Americans gathered on the streets of New York City to protest Washington's recent strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. The demonstrators said in unison they do not want another war, especially not an illegal one.
You can see some of their names.
From my point of view, it's like my tax dollar here is bombing my childhood home. So imagine how I feel about that. And especially another illegitimate war. You know, as Middle Eastern, we firsthand saw the impacts of America and other Western nations, illegitimate war in Afghanistan and Iraq.
And it's putting the world at risk. And we have been doing that for decades, for my entire lifetime. And I'm fed up. I can't live like this anymore.
Donald Trump is hell-bent on dragging the United States into an illegal war that could have catastrophic implications, not just for the Middle East as a region, but for the whole world. We really believe that this has the potential to spiral into a global war from the likes of which humanity may not recover.
22 people have been killed in a terrorist attack against Syrian Christians. The suicide bombing took place during a Sunday liturgy at a Greek Orthodox Church in the Syrian capital, Damascus. Authorities say the Islamic State is responsible. Witnesses say that the attacker entered the Mar Elias church in Damascus with a rifle and opened fire before detonating his explosive vest. The resulting death toll is at least 22 killed and 63 wounded. The Syrian Interior Ministry says that the terrorist was affiliated with the Islamic State. This is the first major terror attack in Syria since the rule of Bashar al-Assad was ended in a rebel offensive in December 2024. At least 5 people have been killed and 19 more wounded in the latest Russian strike on Ukraine's Kyiv region. The attack damaged a high-rise apartment building, a metro station exit, and a bus shelter in the Ukrainian capital. One woman was killed in Bila Tserkva, just outside Kyiv. The heaviest damage occurred in the Shvervinsky district, where a 5-story building caught fire. At least 4 people have died in the attack. 3 more people have also been wounded in the Sviatoshysky district of the Ukrainian capital and 2 elsewhere in the city. The strikes sparked fires in several places in the Ukrainian capital. Among them, a residential building and four-story office building in the Solomiansky district. According to local reports, the fire spread to an area of 800 square meters. Casualties were also reported in other areas around the capital, including Bucha, a town just northwest of Kyiv. The attack comes just days following one of the largest Russian attacks on the city, which killed 28 people and wounded 134 others. Norway will invest $400 million in Ukraine's defense industry, including drone and air defense missile production. The deal was announced late last night by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
Norway's Minister of Defense has visited Ukraine. A decision has been reached to invest $400 million in our production. New funding, primarily for drones. We are working together to create all the necessary conditions to produce air defense systems in Ukraine, jointly with partners, jointly with Norway. Steps in that direction are being taken. An office has already been opened in Ukraine by one of Europe's largest defense companies, Norway's Kongsberg Defense and Aerospace. We are expediting all processes to the maximum extent.
According to Reuters, NATO member states agreed on the content of a statement being prepared for the alliance upcoming summit in The Hague, in which they established a new defense spending target of 5% of GDP. The newly set spending rate should be reached by 2035. Reuters claims alliance members managed to overcome Spain's opposition on the matter. However, at the same time, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez said that Spain will not be forced to increase its defense spending to 5% of GDP, arguing it would be disproportionate and unnecessary. The Hague summit will take place on June 24-25. Poland's Interior Ministry says building civil protection shelters is a national priority. A meeting set for next week will address how to allocate funding for the project.
It comes as Russia's war in Ukraine rages on and Poland invests around 5% of GDP in defence spending. Interior Ministry and defence officials will meet to agree on the distribution of 5 billion zloty for local government civil protection schemes. Initially, funds will be spent on the renovation of existing shelters, with the aim of increasing readiness for crisis situations.
The release of Belarusian opposition figure Serhiy Tsikhanouski is drawing attention to quiet talks between the US and Minsk. Critics warn this diplomacy risks legitimizing Moscow's proxy, but others say it helped secure the release of political prisoners. Now free, Tsikhanouski and his wife are urging continued resistance.
Serhiy Tsikhanouski could not hold back tears when asked about the reunion with his children. After he was held in a Belarusian prison for 60 months, his daughter did not recognize him when he finally came home. Tsikhanouski was arrested 5 years ago when planning to run for president against Alexander Lukashenko.
I was just arrested in Grodno on 29 of May 2020, put in prison, sentenced in a closed session, and then, all of a sudden yesterday, I was let go and sent abroad.
The release was the immediate result of the visit of US Special Envoy to Ukraine, Kyiv Kellogg, to Minsk, where he met with the Belarusian leader.
I want to personally thank President Trump and his administration. Without their tireless efforts, this moment would never could happen.
Apart from Tsikhanouski, a major opposition figure, 13 other political prisoners were freed, seemingly a step toward easing relations between Belarus and the West. But according to some, Minsk, in this situation, is just an intermediary.
The real agenda here, undoubtedly, is moving forward the Ukraine question.
And, according to Bohdan Nahailo, editor-in-chief of Kyiv Post and a guest at TVP World, one should be careful to take the release of prisoners at face value, as Lukashenko is not in a position to directly negotiate with the US.
At the end of the day, we don't know what the game is. After all, Lukashenko is a total vassal of Moscow. He's not a free agent. He doesn't do as he pleases.
The release of prisoners contradicts the comments made by Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier this week, in which he asserted all Ukraine is Russia.
At the same time, the Russians and Ukrainians have so-called talks going on, total nonsense as far as the two positions are concerned because of the Russian zero-sum game. We want everything.
And all this as the Belarusian regime is also not backing down, with more than 1,100 political prisoners still detained and new ones arrested on a daily basis.
Repressions in Belarus are relentless and brutal, and people are deprived of their life almost every morning in prisons or when they are released.
And this is why the just-released Tsikhanouski vows to keep fighting for free Belarus.
Мы должны бороться против лукашизма.
Paweł Trzaskowski for TVP World.
Antarctica's icy ecosystems are under growing threat as rising global temperatures endanger life below the surface. Scientists are racing to study marine species adapted to sub-zero waters, warning that even slight warming could have severe consequences.
Divers in Antarctica brace for an icy bath as they investigate underwater life that depends on a sub-zero environment. Experts say they are now in a race against time as global temperatures continue to climb.
If the Earth warms up, the first places to disappear are the cold ones, and when they're gone, you can't get them back. The potential to exploit them for biotech and for society and for the benefit is gone. But don't forget also that all those animals that we really care about, the penguins, the birds and the whales, they depend on that ecosystem.
Penguins are already under pressure. Research published earlier this month in the journal Nature predicts penguin populations will decline rapidly over this century because of habitat loss as a result of warming oceans and loss of seasonal sea ice. Worst affected so far are emperor penguins, with research showing a staggering 22% population decline from 2009 to 2018. Scientists now want to understand how the warming waters will affect the microorganisms and other life at the foot of the Antarctic food chain, because the ecosystems here depend on their survival. The fear is that incremental increases could eliminate these essential elements, placing the entire delicate balance of nature in Antarctica under threat. Scientists say measures are urgently needed to tackle climate change and preserve the fragile ecosystems that sustain the Antarctic's inhabitants. John Todd for TVP World.
And that's all we've prepared for you in this edition of World News, but please don't go away as World Talks with Benjamin Lee and Ian McNamara on NATO upcoming summit in The Hague is coming right after.